Hi, my name is Steve Preziosi. I'm an attorney here in New York City. My firm handles all types of state and federal appeals, and we also handle Article 78 petitions and proceedings. I get a lot of questions about Article 78 petitions and proceedings, and here are the top 5 things that I'm generally asked about by clients or potential clients with regard to them. One, specifically, what is an Article 78 proceeding? What type of relief can you ask for? What are the time limitations? This is a big stumbling block for a lot of cases. Where are they filed? And something we call the exhaustion rule. I'm going to go over all 5 of these. So what is an Article 78 proceeding? It's a special proceeding, kind of like a hybrid, somewhere between a lawsuit and an appeal, depending on what subsection of Article 78 you file under. Sometimes it'll resemble more of a lawsuit, and sometimes it will resemble more of an appeal. We're going to go through each one of those sections. It's a special proceeding. It's laid out, the relief that you can ask for is laid out in Article 78, Section 7803, and there are 4 types of relief you can ask for. We're going to go through each one of them, and each one of them corresponds or is the codification of one of the old common law writs, either the writ of mandamus, the writ of prohibition, or the writ of certiorari. And you'll see that there's one that's kind of a hybrid. Under 7803 sub 1 is a body or officer. I'm going to define that for you. Body or officer is a body or officer failing to perform their duty. Are they failing? Is some administrative agency failing to do what they are statutorily bound or obligated to do? You can file an Article 78 petition under the writ of mandamus to mandate, to force them to do this. For one example would be the Department of Motor Vehicles is a New York State agency. When they don't render a driver's license to someone, they are subject to review under Article 78 proceedings. 7802 is whether an administrative agency is proceeding or is about to proceed outside the boundaries of their authority. They are subject to review under the writ of prohibition, 7803 sub 2. You can file an Article 78 petition to stop an administrative agency from doing something. When you get to 7803 sub 3 and 4, the Article 78 petition begins to resemble more of an appeal rather than a lawsuit. So, for example, what you're asking the court to do is review the decision and the process that occurred with the administrative agency. So, under 7803 sub 3, you're asking the court, it's New York State Supreme Court, to determine whether or not an administrative agency or an administrative judge, their decision was arbitrary and capricious. And you'll see this phrase, arbitrary and capricious, attached a lot to or associated with Article 78 proceedings. And it resembles what you're asking the New York State Supreme Court to do is review in an appellate type of authority. Under 78.3 sub 4, you're asking them to determine whether an administrative law judge, after a hearing, had substantial evidence to support his or her decision. Okay? So those are the types of things you can ask for from a body or officer. What is a body or officer? Any state, municipal agency, or public figure. Sometimes, in some cases, a judge is subject to Article 78 review. Here are some of the agencies I filed against that you can that are all subject to review under Article 78. The Department of Motor Vehicles, the NYPD. Many times in employment type situations, the NYPD is subject to review under Article 78. The Taxi and Limousine Commission, the Division of Parole. Many times when a prisoner is not paroled, the Division of Parole is a state agency that is also subject to Article 78 review. So these are some types of body or officers. Body, officer, administrative agency, public figure, and in some cases, even judges are subject to Article 78 review. One of the most important parts about Article 78 is the statute of limitations. Statute of limitations is so short. I don't know why the legislature made it this short. 120 days, 4 months, is the statute of limitations from the date that your administrative decision becomes final. Final is sometimes has a question mark at the end of it. When it becomes final, you really need to consult with an attorney about this, because different administrative agencies have different review processes. Some of them have an appeals process, some of them do not. So you really need to consult with an attorney to make sure that you're filing on time. Where do we file Article 78 petitions? This is kind of a dual question, because where, in what court, and where geographically? What court? Let's answer that question first. What court? Most of the time, Article 78 petitions are filed in New York State Supreme Court, which is the trial level court here in New York State. In some cases, they're filed directly with the appellate division, but the overwhelming majority are filed in New York State Supreme Court. And then where, the other question is where geographically. You may have a choice in some cases. Sometimes it's in the county of where you reside or where a hearing was held, and sometimes it's in the county where an appellate review was held. You might have a choice. Consult with an attorney, see which place is most advantageous for you. And then finally, the exhaustion rule. The exhaustion rule is simply this: you must exhaust all administrative remedies before you can file your petition, your Article 78 petition in New York State Supreme Court. There are exceptions for emergencies, but if there's an emergency, the burden it would be on you to prove that there was an emergency, that you were able to or should have skipped all your administrative steps. But generally speaking, exhaustion rule, you've got to exhaust all administrative remedies. So if there's a hearing and an appellate review process in the administrative agency you're dealing with, you got to go through all of that before you can file in New York State Supreme Court. That's the exhaustion rule. Okay, those are the top 5 things that I think you should know about Article 78 petitions or proceedings. If there's something regarding your case that I didn't cover here, give me a call. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. My name's Steve Preziosi, and my firm handles Article 78 petitions and special proceedings.